Hi there. Welcome to the second episode of Late to the Cinemas podcast. It's been a while since we've made one of these. The first episode was kind of a test episode. There were some things that worked, some things that didn't work. That came out like late November, early December, so hopefully this can quench your thirst for some more Late to the Cinema content. Uh, Last episode, we found that some things, didn't work, specifically the box office section or portion of the show, because it really messed with the schedule and it kind of put us on a time hold for when they could come out. Or not a time hold, but we had to get them out really fast, and editing and stuff, there just wasn't time. So we're going to keep movie reviews here and stuff, but that's out. I have no guest today, which is fine, because I think I can take care of this show by myself. But I will be going over a new movie, some movie news, and a film that I think not too many people know about. So yeah, let's get right into it. I saw a new film this last weekend. It's the movie is called Birds of Prey and the Fabtabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Yes, that's the full title. Whatever. It's a new DC movie. It stars Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and it follows her character Harley Quinn, after she's broken up with the Joker, and she has to deal with a bunch of her enemies that she made while with the Joker, trying to survive without the protection of. I keep saying the Joker. Especially one named Black Mask, played by Ewan McGregor. So I wasn't sure about how this movie is going to be going into it, and coming out, I think it's better than I expected it to be, but it's still not a fantastic film. Uh, the there's a lot to like there. There's a lot of fun action in the movie, which is really well done and is really well shot. They brought in the John Wick crew. Those are some great action movies, and they brought them in to do the action here, and you can really tell that it's shot really nice. You always see what's going on. There's no trying to figure out what just happened, because there's a million shots in one, so that's very nice. The characters are great. Margot Robbie is fantastic as Harley Quinn, and Ewan McGregor is great as the Black Mask character, because it's very campy, but he plays the role just as cheesy enough so that it's not too crazy, but it works. And the rest of the cast also is very good. Yeah, so I think the cast is great, and I think they all work great together. But where the film really messes up is it's kind of story and pacing. While the story isn't terrible, it's kind of generic, uh, and at some points convoluted. Though it's pretty simple. I'm not going to get into it to avoid spoilers, but there's just it has to do with MacGuffins and such, which just don't work super well. And what really hurts this film is the pacing. Even though it's a fairly short movie for being a superhero movie, it's only an hour and 40 minutes. It feels super long, and that's because they don't play out the film like a normal movie would. They cut to different points in time to try to make it more interesting, but it really doesn't work, and it just makes the film feel so much longer than it really is. And I'd say even at like the 30-minute point, I thought we were close to the end of the movie, and we weren't, because it just feels very long. And there's definitely some moments that can slog by. I also don't love how the story is told. It's done with narration from Harley Quinn's character a lot. A lot of the story is told through just her telling you what's going on, which I think is a somewhat lazy way of telling a story. Sometimes it works, and it doesn't always not work here, but it definitely isn't a great way to tell a story. Despite that, I forgot to mention in the positives that the comedy is pretty good. It's got a lot of funny moments. Uh, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, who is unfortunately not in the movie as much as I'd like, is very funny in all of her scenes. She plays a great character and a fresh character in the film when she shows up because she's very different from all the other characters. She's very funny, but also Harley Quinn is funny, Ewan McGregor is funny, all of them were very funny. But yeah, I don't think it's a perfect movie, and it can sometimes slog by and be a little too slow, and the pacing and the story, all that could definitely be fixed up. But at the same time, I don't think it's a terrible movie or even a bad movie. I think it's a fine movie because it is fun to watch. I would definitely suggest, if you're going to watch this movie, don't go in with super high expectations. Expect just a fun time, and I think you'll be satisfied. So yeah, that's Birds of Prey. For our movie news, the Oscars, which is in a lot of people's opinion the biggest night in Hollywood, were last night, and to my happy surprise, Parasite, which was my favorite film of 2019, directed by Bong Joon-ho, somewhat swept the entire Oscars. I mean, it only got 4 wins, but it was the big name that came out of the show. It won for Best Original Screenplay, Best International Film, Best Director, and Best Picture overall. And it's very cool because I believe this is the first time a international film has been given Best Picture, which is just great, and I think it will hopefully open a lot of Americans' eyes up to films across the pond, or I don't know, something like that. I think it's a fantastic film. The whole cast, you can tell, is very proud of it. You can tell director Bong Joon-ho put a lot of work into it, and I think it's a success, and I'm really happy that it all worked out. Some other notable wins: Joaquin Phoenix for Best Actor in Joker, which he was pretty good in. I don't think the movie is great, but I think he was definitely the highlight of the movie. His performance was great, as I said. Best Actress went to Renee Zellweger for Judy. I never saw the film, but she's been winning almost all the Best Actress awards, so I assume it was pretty good, or at least her performance was pretty good. Best Supporting Actor went to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think was a no surprise to anyone. He had been getting these awards for every show he did, and he definitely deserves it. He really holds. I mean, I think the movie's great, but he's what really holds the whole movie together. And he had a great, humble speech, as he has for the last few awards circuits. He's had some of the best speeches of the award season, which is great. Best Supporting Actress went to Laura Dern for A Marriage Story, which was also, I think, expected from a lot of people. She was good in that, and she had a great speech too. So yeah, those are some of the big ones that won last night, and I thought it was a pretty good show. There was some slow parts at the beginning, and it did some of the usual dumb stuff they do, where they try to waste time by just making jokes. And I mean, sometimes that's good because it can get boring sometimes with just hearing categories and winners and stuff. But sometimes you just want to get going because it's over 3 hours long. So yeah, pleased about that. uh, what else? I have more to say, of course, but I would say that overall the Oscars was good this year, mostly because of Parasite's win, though, because I think a lot of people didn't actually expect it to win Best Picture, even though it definitely deserved it. And since it won, a lot of people were just really happy, including me. So yeah, there was also, I believe it's called the Independent Spirit Awards this weekend, which are another awards show. And there, uh, they picked some what I would consider snubs of the Oscars for winners. For instance, Adam Sandler for Best Male Lead, which is great. He was fantastic in Uncut Gems. He definitely deserves that award. His speech was very good. You could tell he's a little pissed off about being snubbed at the Oscars, but you know, at least he got that. It was a very heartfelt speech. You know, he actually, despite his not so great record on movies, he's a very funny and charismatic person on interviews, I feel. And I bet I even though I have never actually watched much of his comedy shows and stuff, I'm sure he is a funny guy. Um, Also for Uncut Gems, the Sadfi brothers won. They're brothers who directed Uncut Gems, and they had a hilarious speech where they gave their speeches but over each other, so they were just like two voices on top of each other saying stuff, and it made no sense and it was fantastic. It's also kind of a joke on how they made the film, because a lot of the film has audio tracks that go on top of each other, and it's sometimes hard to understand what people are saying in the movies, which actually makes what part of the reason that the film is so good is because of that. So that was very awesome and very cool. And Willem Dafoe, I believe, won for Best Supporting Actor. Yeah, I think for Best Supporting Actor, he won for The Lighthouse, which he was great in that. That's another snub from the Oscars. I mean, he did stuff in that I think a lot of a lot of actors would not be wanting to do. For instance, getting literally dirt thrown in his mouth while he has to give out a monologue, stuff like that. He was very good in The Lighthouse, so I think he definitely deserves that win as well. So that's kind of it for movie news this weekend. There wasn't too much other news. I mean, I guess you could mention that Disney's doing more live action remakes. They just announced doing a Lilo and Stitch, which is that's one of the ones that really makes me angry. I mean, remake the ones that already made millions of dollars back in the 90s, but now you're going into like ones that really affected my childhood, so that kind of sucks. I hate that. But other than that, that's what's going on in movie news. So now I'm gonna go over a film that I think doesn't get enough recognition. That film being 1991's The People Under the Stairs. That is a horror movie from director Wes Craven. He's most well known for the Scream franchise and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which are pretty notable and famous. This is a film that's not quite as famous. It doesn't actually. It's partly because it doesn't have great reviews. I mean, it does. It's not completely bad. For instance, on a site that a lot of people use, Rotten Tomatoes, not a great site in my opinion, but a lot of people use it as a 63, which is really on the edge of being rotten and fresh. But I really love this film. I think it's insane. It's one of those movies where like, there's situations that are crazy, and they get even crazier and more gratuitous, I guess I'd put it. The best way I can describe this film is it's this kid who is this kid lives in with his family, and his family's very poor, and his mom has gone sick, and so him and his sister's boyfriend decide they're going to break into the house of the family who owns the neighborhood they live in, because they heard that family has a bunch of money in their basement. But when they break in, they learn that the family that lives there is not quite, well, not quite as sane as or rational as normal people would be, I guess you could say, or something. Uh, but I think this movie is a lot of fun. I mean, the cheesy title, "The People Under the Stairs," basically encapsulates how the movie is. It's super campy. It's crazy. There's stuff in it that you'll like be shocked that they're doing, but at the same time you'll like be in awe of it. It's if you're a fan of, I mean, like gory horror movies, it's got that for you. It's got some pretty like ugh scenes, but at the same time, I think horror fans love that. Uh, it's a whole lot of fun. It's got some really great lines, especially one at the very end, which I'm not gonna say, but um, it's even got some good tension. There's a few scenes in it that are like get your heart pounding pretty hard because you really don't know what's gonna happen um, to the main kid, who's very charismatic and has is actually a really good actor, I feel. Uh, and there's some crazy situations. I mean, they did some things with the set of the house that the majority of the film takes place in that like it reminds me kind of the Goonies with like booby traps and such, just stuff like that. So I would say if you're a horror movie fan and you're looking for a fun, campy, somewhat cheesy, but like good time, I'd say definitely check out Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs because you won't be disappointed. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorites. So yeah, I think that will about do it for our podcast today. This has been the second episode of Late to the Cinemas. Hopefully we'll come back with a new episode sooner than later, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to it. And I would like to thank you for listening to it. And if you're on the Clarion website right now or the Clarion YouTube channel, I would highly suggest you check out some of our other content. We have a lot of stuff that is probably interesting to you, so check that out and have a good time. Thanks for listening and have a nice rest of your day.